The coffee mug didn't break when it hit the floor. That surprised me. It spun once, landed sideways, and just rolled. No dramatic shatter. Just a soft thunk against the kitchen tile. Like even it had gotten tired of reacting. Camille didn't flinch. She just sat at the table in her robe, scrolling her phone, legs crossed like she was at a spa. Her untouched toast sat in front of her, the jam sweating under the kitchen light. She hadn't spoken a word to me yet, not even a grunt of acknowledgement, and I'd been awake for 2 hours. I stared at the mug. It was mine. The one with the faded cartoon badger on it. She hated that thing. Called it childish. But it was the last gift from my late uncle, so I kept using it out of spite. Or maybe out of grief. I don't know anymore. She finally looked up. Her eyes met mine for less than a second. Then she tilted her head and said it, those 5 words I now knew by heart. Don't touch me tonight. Like a spell. Like a command from royalty. It floated in the air between us, casual, cold, mechanical. I didn't nod. I didn't argue. I just opened the fridge, stared at the rows of neatly aligned condiments, and replied. Don't ask me for anything. Same tone. Same rhythm. Our new form of intimacy. She didn't react. Again. She hadn't reacted in weeks. And that right there is the scariest thing I've ever experienced, indifference. Not hate. Not anger. Just the empty space where love used to echo. Some people get thrown out of love like it's a sudden thing, a storm, a betrayal, a moment. Ours? It's been more like slow erosion. Tiny grains of sand slipping down the hourglass until there's nothing left but the sound of pretending. But last night, something changed. Not in her. In me. I sat on the edge of her bed, my side, obviously, and watched her back rise and fall as she breathed. She had her earbuds in. She always did now. I think she listens to crime podcasts to avoid hearing my voice. She used to laugh in her sleep. Now she doesn't even twitch. So I got up, went to the living room, and opened the drawer I swore I'd never touch. The one with the receipts. The printouts. The screenshots. Yeah. I'd been collecting. Not because I wanted proof. But because I needed to feel like I wasn't insane. And what I found, what I finally let myself see, was worse than cheating. It was the absolute absence of care. And now, I don't know what comes next. But I do know that mug didn't break. And neither did I. Yet, the first lie wasn't even spoken. It smelled like lavender and almond milk. I'm not exaggerating, she hates lavender. Always said it reminded her of her grandmother's laundry room. Yet when I walked into our bedroom that Tuesday night, the scent hit me like a wall. Soft. Powdery. Unfamiliar. She was freshly showered, brushing her hair by the window, wearing a hoodie I didn't recognize. Pale gray, oversized, with a faint logo on the sleeve that looked too young, too trendy for her taste. It wasn't mine. Definitely wasn't hers. I didn't say a word. I stood there, heart tapping against my ribs, thinking about that hoodie. About the lavender. About how she didn't notice me at first and hummed a tune I'd never heard her hum before. A little off-key. Relaxed. Almost affectionate. For someone else. She finally looked up and gave me that same flat expression. The one that tells you she sees you, but barely. Like spotting a delivery truck passing on the road, acknowledged, not important. I asked her where the hoodie came from, voice low. She blinked, tilted her head, and said, oh. I don't know. Probably old. You sure it's not yours? No. I was sure. I've folded every single hoodie I own more times than I can count. I know my clothes like I know the creak in our hallway floor. But I didn't push. Because I'm a coward, I guess. Or maybe just exhausted. Instead, I watched her climb into bed. No kiss. No touch. Not even a glance. I laid down beside her and stared at the ceiling until I heard her breathing slow. Then I got up again. I don't know what possessed me, jealousy, curiosity, humiliation, but I slipped into the hallway, opened the coat closet, and searched the pockets of the gray hoodie when I found it tossed behind an old duffel bag. In the front pouch, a used movie ticket stub. From last Thursday. 2 seats. Movie I hadn't seen. With her initials scribbled on the back, alongside another name. Not a common one. Jax. I stood there for 10 minutes. Couldn't even feel my fingers. It wasn't just that she might be cheating. It was that she never looked like she was lying. No guilt. No shift in tone. She'd been serving apathy so convincingly that it turned me into a ghost long before she ever slipped out with someone else. And here's the kicker. The next morning, she asked me if I could pick up almond milk on the way home from work. Said we were out. That same scent was still in our room. I turned to her and said, don't ask me for anything. She blinked. Slowly. Then said, fine. No argument. No follow-up. Just fine, like she'd been waiting for this breakdown from me all along. Like she preferred the silence to whatever flicker of emotion still existed between us. But I'm not silent anymore. Because the hoodie wasn't the only thing I found. There's a folder on her laptop. And the password? It wasn't even changed. I stared at the laptop longer than I should have. It sat open on the edge of the couch, lid slightly cracked, like it was waiting for me. I shouldn't have been home that early. I had told Camille I had back-to-back meetings, which was true until 2 got canceled, and I decided to walk home rather than sit at my desk pretending to care about another spreadsheet. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. Even the hallway light was off. Her shoes were by the door, which meant she was home. But I didn't hear the shower, didn't hear music, didn't hear her humming, nothing. My gut told me to leave the laptop alone. My heart begged me to do otherwise. She was in the bedroom, the door half shut. I could see her legs on the bed, one crossed over the other, toe twitching in a rhythm. Probably scrolling her phone. That same weird little smile tugging at her lips. She smiled more at that screen than she had at me in 6 months. And then I looked back at the laptop. It was already awake. Her screen was still logged into a guest user account she created for work purposes, even though she worked from her office 4 days a week. The desktop was clean. No chaos, no mess, just one folder on the corner with a name that stopped my breath for a second. Jack's things. Not hidden. Not even subtle. Just there. I moved the mouse. Clicked once. And what opened wasn't what I expected. No photos. No videos. It was worse. A collection of neatly organized text files, dated, labeled, and cold. Jack's Monday recap. Things to say to Eldon if asked. Safe restaurant list. Excuses, master list. Each file like a dagger waiting to be unsheathed. I clicked on the first one with shaky fingers. Jack's Monday recap was a journal entry. Written by Camille, in detail about what she and Jax did together, what they talked about, what he wore, what made her laugh. She described a moment when he told her he liked the way she said his name. She wrote that she felt seen again. She wrote that he smelled like cedarwood and trust. I read that line 5 times as if the word would change if I looked at it long enough. Trust. I clicked the second file. It was worse. A script. Literally a written-out dialogue for what to say if I ever questioned her. Backup stories. Diversions. Innocent explanations for every suspicious moment I'd quietly clocked in my brain over the past few months. Even my comment about the hoodie? It was there. She had predicted it. Say, I think you're being a little paranoid, then pivot to talking about work stress. He usually drops it. I felt something crack in my chest. I backed away from the laptop. Sat on the floor. Just sat. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared at the carpet like it had all the answers I never asked for. I remember thinking how weird it was that she hadn't even bothered to hide any of it. Like she assumed I'd never check. Like she thought I was too pathetic, too broken, too safe to even look. Maybe she was right. The bedroom door creaked behind me. She stepped into the hallway mid-yawn, completely unaware. You're home early, she said, stretching. Everything okay? I looked up at her. My voice wasn't ready. My mind wasn't ready. All I could do was nod. And she just shrugged, walked past me, and headed for the fridge. Not a question. Not a kiss. Not even a glance at the open screen. And that's when I realized something far worse than infidelity had happened. She didn't love him. She didn't hate me. She didn't care at all. That evening, I made dinner. I don't know why. Maybe because I needed something normal to do. Maybe because my hands needed a job that didn't involve shaking. I marinated the chicken, roasted the sweet potatoes just the way she used to like them, crisp edges, sea salt, rosemary. I even lit the candles. Our dining room hadn't seen candles in months. They flickered like old memories trying to survive in still air. Camille came out wearing joggers and a t-shirt I didn't recognize again. She paused in the hallway when she saw the table set. Not in surprise, but annoyance. Like I'd disrupted a routine she preferred broken. You didn't have to cook, she said, not moving. I know, I replied, already sitting. She sighed, walked over, and sat across from me. No compliments. No gratitude. Just silence and the faint tapping of her fork against the plate. She chewed without tasting, swallowed without looking up. Her phone buzzed once in her lap. She glanced, smirked, then turned it face down on the table. That was the first time in weeks I felt something colder than her words, detachment. She didn't eat more than a third of the food. Said she wasn't hungry. Pushed her plate away and stood up like we'd never even started a conversation because we hadn't. But I couldn't let her go. Not this time. Who's Jax? I asked, quiet but direct. She froze. I watched her spine stiffen like I'd triggered a pressure plate. Her reply was calm. Too calm. Someone I work with. Why? I stared at her. You keep a folder. On your laptop. With his name on it. Now she turned. Slowly. Looked at me like I was a raccoon rummaging through her trash. You went through my computer? You left it open. She folded her arms. So, you read my personal things? Do you want to talk about what I read, Camille? She didn't answer. Just pressed her lips together, blinked like she was calculating something, then said, You're twisting things. You always do this. There it was. The script. I almost laughed. Is that from the file too? Things to say to Eldon if he asks. Now she got angry. Really angry. The kind of cold, precise anger that doesn't raise its voice, it just stabs softly and repeatedly. I don't have to explain myself to someone who spies on me, she said, her voice trembling with rage. Do you know how creepy that is? You invade my privacy and then make me the villain. I could barely keep up. How did I go from heartbroken husband to the monster in under 30 seconds? I was trying to understand why my wife doesn't even look at me anymore, I said. Why she says, don't touch me tonight, like I'm some stray animal scratching at the door. She rolled her eyes. God, Eldon. Grow up. You're so emotionally needy, it's exhausting. That hurt. More than I thought it would. Like she'd been keeping that particular knife sharp for a long time and was just waiting for the perfect moment to slide it under my ribs. She grabbed her phone, muttered something about needing air, and left the apartment. I didn't follow. I sat at the table for another 20 minutes, staring at the flickering candles and her half-eaten food. And for the first time in our marriage, I truly understood what it meant to feel unwanted in your own home. But here's the thing. Before she walked out, I noticed something on her phone screen. A text preview. Can't wait to see you again. Last night was everything. Jay. She hadn't even tried to hide it. And that told me more than anything she could have said. She didn't just stop loving me. She started loving being without me. She came back around midnight. The hallway light flicked on and I could hear her heels on the wood floor click, pause, click, like she was deciding whether or not to finish each step. I was still on the couch in the dark, laptop humming softly on the coffee table beside me. I hadn't moved much since she left. Just sat there with a half-finished glass of water and that ache behind my eyes that comes from holding in too many things at once. When Camille noticed I was awake, she didn't apologize. She didn't ask what I was doing. She just said, You're still up, like I was the one interrupting something. Her voice had that slight slur it gets when she's been drinking or trying too hard to seem relaxed. I said nothing. I didn't trust myself to speak. She walked past me without waiting for an answer, tossed her purse on the dining chair, then disappeared into the bathroom. The door clicked shut. The water started running. And I just sat there still. Until I saw it. Her phone was on the table. Not locked. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe I wanted to confirm the hurt, like a child pressing a bruise just to feel it again. Maybe I hoped, some stupid, naive part of me, that I'd misread everything. But the screen was open to a conversation. A text thread. With Jay. The most recent message sat there like a stone in my chest. I told him I was just going for a walk. You were right, he never asks. See you tomorrow, same place. Below it, a photo. A blurry, low-light picture of Camille's legs curled beneath a blanket, a wine glass in her hand. She was smiling, really smiling. Not the tight-lipped, polite smirk she gave me when I asked how her day was. This smile was warm, alive, like someone had relit a part of her soul I hadn't touched in years. And then the message before it. You make me feel real again. I put the phone down like it was radioactive. She was still in the bathroom. I could hear the water stop, the soft creak of the mirror cabinet, the clink of a bottle. My mind wasn't racing, it was sinking. Like I was falling through a hole I didn't know had been beneath me all along. And I didn't feel rage. I didn't even feel betrayal. Just this bone-deep hollowness that told me, you are no longer part of her story. When she came out, she didn't look at me. Walked straight past, into the bedroom, shut the door behind her. I stared at that door for a long time, wondering how many times she'd lied to my face. Wondering if she had ever meant it when she said, I love you. Wondering how I had become the man she couldn't wait to escape every night. But most of all, I wondered who I was now. Because the version of me that sat at that dinner table, trying to understand, trying to fix, trying to deserve something better, that man had just read the truth. And now all he had left were questions. What do you do when the person you love the most treats you like a detour? When their joy becomes something that happens away from you? When don't touch me tonight really means someone else already did? I went to bed hours later. The house was silent. Her breathing was soft, steady, peaceful. Like nothing had happened. But in the darkness, I didn't sleep. I opened my notes app. Typed one sentence. Start planning your exit. Not out of revenge. Not yet. but because staying meant becoming something smaller than I already was. It's strange how fast you can become a stranger in your own home. You move the same, breathe the same, fold the laundry, refill the hand soap, restock the fridge. And yet, none of it belongs to you anymore. You're a stand-in for a memory she no longer misses. A placeholder while she slips into someone else's life behind your back and smiles like she's finally living. That realization didn't burn, it chilled me. Like someone slowly turning the heat off in a room until your fingers go numb without noticing. After that night, I didn't confront her again. What was the point? She was already gone. She just hadn't packed a suitcase yet. Maybe she thought I'd never say anything. Maybe she counted on me being weak, predictable, resigned. Maybe I was. But there's a difference between being broken and being finished. So I started planning. Not revenge. Not theatrics. Just exit. First, I stopped doing the things she depended on me for. No more dry cleaning runs. No more scheduling her car appointments. I stopped restocking the almond milk. She didn't even notice. She started buying her own groceries. She had stopped cooking months ago. Meals became whatever's in the fridge, and then eventually I'll just grab something with friends. Every excuse was sharper than the last, and every one of them left no room for me. Then I took back my time. I stayed late at work. Signed up for a gym membership I didn't want just to have a reason to be out of the apartment. I started volunteering on weekends even if it meant stuffing envelopes or sorting boxes. The silence in those rooms felt more like home than the one I paid for. Camille didn't ask. Didn't even pretend to care. One night she actually said, "It's good that you're keeping busy. You used to be so clingy." That word stuck to my ribs. Clingy. Like love was something to be embarrassed of. Like wanting to hold your wife's hand made you a burden. Like presence was punishment. But then the biggest shift happened. One afternoon I came home earlier than expected. Camille wasn't there. But her laptop was open again. Different screen this time. A draft email. Unsent. Titled The Talk. My fingers hovered over the trackpad like I was about to defuse a bomb. The email read, "Eldon deserves the truth, but I don't know how to say it without breaking him. I can't keep living in this cage of his expectations. He doesn't see it, but every day with him feels like I'm slowly drowning in still water. Jax makes me feel like myself. Like I'm 25 again when I had dreams and fire. I don't want to hurt Eldon, but I'm tired of pretending to be the wife he remembers. I'm not her. I'm not his anymore. There was more. Too much more." I closed the laptop. Quietly. Sat on the couch and listened to the hum of the fridge and the distant sound of kids playing down the block. I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't hurt, but because there was nothing left to grieve. She had already said goodbye. Just not out loud. That night, I told her I'd be going on a trip for work. 3 days. Maybe 4. She barely looked up from her phone. Said, "Cool. Let me know if you need me to feed the plants." That was the last night I slept in that apartment. I booked a hotel with the last of my rainy day fund. I packed 2 bags, laptop, clothes, my favorite mug. Left the ring on the nightstand. Wrote a note that said only, "I saw everything, so I chose something else. Peace." Then I walked out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't burn anything. I didn't even look back. But for the first time in years, the silence that followed actually sounded like freedom. I didn't check my phone for 2 days. Not once. Not out of strength, but because I knew if I saw her name on the screen, if I even saw the letter C in a notification, it would pull me back into the spiral. That awful, aching loop of, maybe I misunderstood, and she didn't mean it like that, and maybe we can fix this. But it wasn't mine to fix anymore. She broke it in places I couldn't reach. And when I finally powered my phone back on in the small, dim hotel room, I was expecting one of 3 things. A wall of angry texts, total silence, or a carefully crafted guilt trip. It was none of those. There was one voicemail. Just one. 32 seconds long. I sat on the bed and played it with a thumb that barely had strength to press the screen. Her voice came through with a clarity that made my chest seize. "Hey, so, I came home and saw your note. I don't know what you think you saw or how long you've been planning this, but I guess you made your decision, and that's fine. If that's how you want to handle this. Anyway, good luck, Eldon." That was it. Not even a full minute. Not a single "I'm sorry." Not one crack of emotion. Just a dry statement of facts and a polite sign-off like she was ending a customer service call. It stung more than yelling would have. Because you don't stay angry at someone you still care about. You get angry because something in you still wants to fight for it. Her calmness told me she'd buried this marriage a long time ago. I was the only one still visiting its grave. But that wasn't the shocking part. The next day I received an email. From an address I didn't recognize. Subject line: "Thought you should see this." Inside was a single attachment. A video. No message. No explanation. I hesitated. Everything in me said not to watch it, but curiosity is louder than pain sometimes. I opened the file and found myself staring at shaky footage from what looked like a rooftop party. Nighttime. String lights. Laughter. People holding drinks. And there she was. Camille. In a black dress I'd never seen before. Hair done up. Swaying to music. Eyes glowing with something I hadn't witnessed in years. She was laughing into someone's chest. A man. Tall. Beard. Tattoos on his arms. Jax. The camera wasn't steady, but it caught it clearly. His hand at her waist, hers on his chest, the closeness, the obvious chemistry. Then someone behind the camera snorted a laugh and said, "Man, she's really out here living her best divorce life, huh?" The person filming was one of her co-workers. I recognized the voice. They didn't know yet that we weren't officially divorced. I closed the laptop and just sat there. Blank. Not because of the betrayal, I'd already swallowed that poison. But because it confirmed something crueler than cheating. She didn't just move on. She celebrated leaving me before I was even gone. It wasn't a secret affair anymore. It was her new identity. Her next chapter. A story she told with confidence, even though I was still trapped in the last paragraph of the old one. And while I was out here sleeping in a budget hotel wondering how to tell my family that my wife chose someone else, she was dancing on rooftops, holding champagne and giggling like the world had finally remembered her name. That night I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I didn't call anyone. I just wrote down every truth I'd ignored over the last year. She stopped kissing me without realizing it. She always had somewhere else to be. I apologized more often than she said thank you. She smiled more at her phone than at me. I loved her more than she liked me. By the time the sun rose, I wasn't angry. I was done. But I wasn't the only one who had something left to say. Because 2 days later, she showed up. Unannounced. Unexpected. And not alone. She knocked twice, sharp, impatient, like she wasn't even sure she should be there. I hadn't given her this hotel's name. Which meant she asked someone. Or searched. Or cared in some way enough to come. I opened the door slowly, not because I was afraid, but because I wanted to make sure I was ready to see her face without falling apart. Camille stood there, arms crossed, eyes puffy but still guarded. She wasn't wearing makeup. Just a hoodie and jeans. Her hair was pulled back messily. There was no trace of rooftop party Camille here. She looked small. Like a person finally forced to see their reflection clearly. "I'm not here to beg," she said before I could speak. "And I'm not here to explain." I waited. She took a breath. "I just wanted to say. I see it now. What I did. What I turned you into. I don't expect forgiveness, and I know this won't fix anything, but you deserve to hear it. From me." I didn't know what to say. The pain was still there, sure. But it didn't feel sharp anymore. It felt like something I'd already bled out. "I didn't need an apology," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "I just needed honesty." She nodded, and for a second we stood in silence. That kind of silence that used to hurt but now felt neutral. "Clean. Jax?" I asked, not because I wanted to reopen a wound, but because I needed to close the page. "He left," she said. "Said he wasn't interested in being part of all this. Said it was fun until it wasn't." I blinked. Not because I was surprised, but because of the way she said it. No bitterness. Just acceptance. "I guess you were never the one holding me back," she added. I was. It didn't feel good to hear that. But it didn't hurt either. It just was. "I wish you well," I said. And I meant it. Genuinely. Not out of pity or pride. Just from a quiet place that finally felt peaceful. She nodded, then turned and walked away. That was the last time I saw Camille. The months that followed weren't glamorous. I didn't suddenly find someone new or jet off to some exotic retreat. But I started rebuilding. Slowly. Quietly. I moved into a small apartment on the edge of town with creaky floors and bad water pressure, but it was mine. I bought a new coffee mug. A dumb one with a sloth that says, "Not today." And every morning, I drank from it without hearing those 5 words I used to dread, "Don't touch me tonight." I joined a book club I never thought I'd enjoy. I picked up running badly. I started laughing again, sometimes even at nothing. And one day, I looked in the mirror and realized I didn't see a broken man anymore. I saw a man who survived. A man who stopped begging for love that refused to grow. And maybe most importantly, I saw a man who finally remembered his own name. Not as her husband. Not as his replacement. Just Eldon. Still here. Still healing. And finally free.